Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Beer vs. Ivy, a baseball podcast where we talk about Cardinals, Cubs, and all baseball in between. I'm your co-host, Steiner Saul, brought to you with...
Hey, I'm Jackson Gross, and obviously I will be the Ivy part of this intense podcast rivalry going on, but we're
know. Got
the beer part
over here.
So we're really excited to bring you this podcast. This has probably been almost a year in the making since the both of us started at Third Down Thursday. So just beyond excited and happy to bring you this podcast.
No, could not agree more with you.
So let's go ahead and start off with it. How are you, Cy? How you doing?
I am tired, but we are doing great. Happy to be here, of course. Literally just got out of class, so we're ready. I'm ready to talk some baseball.
It's an exciting time to be talking baseball. It's been weird end of the year, but hopefully your classes are going good. What classes did you have today?
I had stats and geography today.
Oh.
They were both quite boring, but we're done with it. There are only two classes of the day, so
gotta love it.
How are you doing so far today, Jackson?
I'm doing quite well. I actually have the house to myself today for at least a few hours. My mom and stepdad are out with some friends on the boat, so I'm excited just to have the house to myself. I'll probably, once we're done here, probably have some lunch, maybe get some Madden in to take out some frustrations after yesterday's Bears game. But we're here to talk baseball, so I don't even want to get into that.
That's a whole other conversation.
For sure. So, yeah, but without further ado, we are at an exciting time in baseball side with the playoffs. They're finally here. The wild card rounds are set. Just give your overall thoughts that we're finally here. We're finally at the really fun part of the baseball season.
The playoffs are my favorite time of the year, always. It's different this year as a Cardinals fan, not seeing my team in it, but there are some very interesting matchups that I'm looking forward to seeing. And I got no other words. I'm just ready for some of that playoff baseball.
Yeah, it's always an exciting time, even though the last 3 years now as a Cubs fan, they haven't been part of the dance. But I still enjoy watching it. I still had fun watching in 2019, seeing the Nationals win it. So hopefully we won't get an Astros or Dodgers World Series or Braves.
Fingers crossed to that.
So, but before we even think about who's going to be in the World Series, we got to talk about some of these wild card matchups. I think we got to start in the American League, and let's start off with the Minnesota Twins hosting the Toronto Blue Jays.
It was a plot twist seeing the Blue Jays make it. That's for sure. But I don't think they stand a chance against the Twins.
Really?
I think we got Twins in 3. The pitching that Minnesota's going to bring with Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray, and Pablo Lopez, I think will end up overpowering Toronto's offense.
Yeah, I could see where you're coming from. And even if one of those 3 guys has an off day, they have Kenta Maeda to pick up as a long reliever out of the bullpen for a potential whatever game they would need him in. So they're pretty stacked. I will say Toronto's top 4 is pretty on par, maybe a little bit worse than what the Twins got. You got Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios has been better. Yusei Kikuchi has been much better this year. So
no Alek Manoah, unfortunately for the Jays, which, yes, Alek Manoah sucked this year, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that's still at the end of the day going to be their X factor because he was coming into the year supposed to be their ace, and now, the other 4 picked up the ground that he left, but no Manoah might hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I don't know. both these teams feel like they could do like so much more offensively with the talent that they have, and I feel like they just haven't done it this year for whatever reason. Like
Mhm.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. still had a great year, but it felt like he fell off a little bit, you know?
No, exactly that. Talking about people who fell off. If I was Minnesota right now, I would be regretting that Carlos Correa contract. I don't know what happened to him, but with the injury bug that he managed to get, with just overall, just this was his worst year that we've seen.
Yeah, it was not a good year for Correa. And I mean, going back to Vlad Guerrero Jr. for a second, I got his stats pulled up. He hit 264, 26 home runs, 94 RBIs, 788 OPS, and we feel like that's a down year considering 2021 he hits 311, 48 homers, 111 RBIs. Like this dude is just an unreal hitting machine.
Looking at Correa's drop off, just purely looking at like batting average wise, last year in 2022, he was a almost 300 hitter hitting 291. This year, in the same games played, roughly the same at bats, only hitting 230. Like that's just that's it. This was his worst year in a very long time. Which, as a twin, as if you were a Twins fan, seeing that, it's like we just signed you to all this money to be our future, our face of the franchise, and you're doing this. If I were a
Huh.
Mets fan right now, I'd be happy that I didn't get Correa.
Mets or Giants at this point.
Right, right.
So like, and personally for me, Cubs fan, also happy that we didn't get him either. So,
Love that though.
so, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you on the prediction. I do think it's gonna go 3 games. So, for those who don't know, just a quick refresher: the wild card round, since there are now 3 wild card teams, is a best of 3, and then the division series still best of 5, NLCS and or championship series and World Series are still best of 7. So yeah. So then I'm gonna say Toronto in 3. While I think that the Twins have the better pitching, the thing is that concerns me is just looking at the Minnesota's depth chart. It is just riddled
Mm-hmm.
with injuries. Jorge Polanco is day to day. Joey Gallo is on the 10-day IL. Royce Lewis is on the 10-day IL. Carlos Correa is on the 10-day IL. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, the worst of it for Toronto, as it looks like, is Otto Lopez and Danny Jansen. They still have Alejandro Kirk behind the dish. So I think Toronto just edges this out. I feel bad for Twins fans. At least get it for them. Just get a playoff win at this point.
That's all we need. The Yankees are not here to ruin your hopes and dreams.
Yeah, they for once the Twins are actually going to be in the playoffs in the Yankees round, which is it was just a great sight to see. Last year I was riding the Twins bandwagon until they kind of fell off. So I'll be rooting for the Twins simply for the fact that I wanted the Mariners in instead of the Blue Jays, which we'll get into later. But my official prediction is Toronto in 3 to take on the Houston Astros in the division series.
Oh, I think we all know how that's gonna go, but this is the playoffs and anything can happen.
So, but before if we decide to get into division series and things of that nature, we have to talk about the absolute cinema. Martin Scorsese would love to film this series. We have the Tampa Bay Rays hosting the Texas Rangers. I believe we're in the first time in the playoffs in quite a while.
I believe that is correct. My heart's very torn with this series. I'm not sure who I want to go with. However, I think we have another 3-game series in our hands that the Texas Rangers will take. Offense, the two-headed punch of Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, best middle infield duo in the MLB. They have been on it all year. Plus, they just got Adolis Garcia back. They have Mitch Garver and Jonah Heim behind the plate, and they're pitching. Jordan Montgomery will shove. Just the Rangers have been scary all year. And I don't think the Rays have it in them.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for the Rays after they got off to that hot start in the beginning of the year. And just looking at it, the Rangers haven't made the playoffs since 2016 and haven't won a playoff game since 2015 and haven't won a series since they made it to the World Series in 2011. It has been a rough 10 to 15-ish years for Texas Rangers fans.
You're not wrong. And if we do still remember, that series that lost in 2011 was to my Birds.
Yeah, that was so long ago. I mean, I was in elementary school. Who remembers that?
Yeah, no, that's the past. We don't need to talk about that. But point is, Rangers in 3, their team's too good. They should have taken the division over the Astros, but it's baseball, baby. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I still have a little bit of belief in the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, Tyler Glasnow saved one of his best pitching performances for the year in his last start. I mean, 5 innings against Boston, 2 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. And even back on September 6th against Boston, 6 innings, 14 strikeouts, 3 hits, and just 1 earned run. Like, Tyler Glasnow, Pirates fans are punching the air right now for the fact they gave him up to Tampa Bay. Don't make a trade with the Rays.
Can't do it. The Rays are a pitching factory. I will give them that. I think that even with all the injuries that the Rays have had, pitching-wise, I give them the edge. But that offense of Texas is way too scary, and I truly believe it will end up overpowering that pitching staff.
Yeah, because, I mean, outside of that, I mean, Aaron Savale has been okay. Zach Eflin's been pretty good. But you also got Taj Bradley, who's a rookie, and you never know how rookies are going to do in their first playoff series. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with Texas as well. Again, in 3 games. It's going to be interesting. I think honestly, like the split, like the run differential throughout this entire series is probably going to be 3 runs or less. I would be shocked if there was a blowout game and like the furthest I could see a game getting would be like 4 or 5 runs because these teams are just so evenly matched. Because I mean, like you said, Jordan Montgomery was going to shove. Nathan Eovaldi is back. Dane Dunning has been rock solid with DeGrom and Scherzer out.
Mm-hmm. And Aaron John Gray is also out. And if the Rangers decide they don't want to go with Dunning, they also have an Andrew Heaney and a Martin Perez that can come in. Like, if I are the Rangers, the only thing I can hope is that Aroldis Chapman does not blow the game.
I don't know why he's been closing games because they have Will Smith, and he was their closer throughout most of this year. And I think when initially Texas got Aroldis, he was pitching in like the 7th and 8th inning and doing a really good job. And then I don't know if Will Smith fell off and they just threw Chapman in instead. So I don't know what's going on with with the Texas's manager right now and deciding to pull that. I don't know.
I'm not a part of that front office, so I wouldn't know either. But Rangers still got the edge.
Yep. But maybe the Rangers should hire you. Let's get that rolling. But yeah. So we'll
call me up. I'll pick the phone up and I'll help y'all out.
All right. So we have the Texas Rangers going against the Baltimore Orioles in the ALDS. Again, another cinema division playoff series.
So good.
Like either way, baseball fans are going to win, regardless who wins that wild card series.
Yes.
Unless there's like a catastrophic injury to like Semien or Seager for the Rangers or Arozarena or Glasnow for the Rays. Like if both teams are at their healthiest, whoever's going to play the Orioles is going to be a fantastic series.
Could not agree with you more.
All right, now it's time to switch to what some people call the senior circuit, the National League wild card. And we got on tap the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on a mutual enemy of ours in the Milwaukee Brewers.
Can't. Gross. Just gross. This one is super easy for me. Let the kids play. Diamondbacks in 3.
Diamondbacks in Milwaukee. Wow. Okay.
And this is why. Brewers will take game 1. There's no doubt in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Kids first time in the playoffs. Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas, Christian Walker, like they don't have that playoff experience. They'll get their feet wet game 1. They'll see how it is. And then Arizona brings out a Zach Gallen and then Merrill Kelly. And that's when they got their studs on the mound. You just can't go wrong. You just cannot go wrong with the Diamondbacks. And plus, realistically, this is the Brewers. This is the NL Central winning Milwaukee Brewers. They only won the division because every other team, minus the Cubs, but sorry for what that's. Just the Central wasn't good. The Central was not good this year. So now they're actually playing up against a powerhouse team that's like the Diamondbacks, who had to play in the Continental West all year. Brewers can't do it. The pitching's only so good. Diamondbacks in 3.
Yeah, the Brewers had some absolutely brutal losses throughout the year. I mean, there's a few series against the Pirates where they really struggled. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the Pirates, by the way, but in a really good season after after a couple of really bad ones. But yeah, and I mean, this is probably going to be the lowest scoring series of the entire playoffs, where you're going to have Corbin Burns versus Pafat, which we'll see how Pafat does. He's been up and down. He's been the roller coaster. He's been up and down throughout the last few starts. But
Diamondback fans love him though. Like they are, what I've seen so far, they are all in. Like, let the kid shove. Like, let the kid do his thing. So I think I just got a feeling.
I don't know. We talked about it pre-show. His last few starts, if you take out the Yankees start on September 22nd, where he only gets 4 1/3, gives up 5 earned runs, 2 homers. He goes 6 innings against the Cubs, loses, giving up 4 runs. Then 5 days later, goes 5 1/3 shutout against the Cubs, and then goes 5 2/3 of scoreless ball against the White Sox in his last start. So maybe he's got some momentum against NL Central / teams from the Midwest. See if that can carry over for Pafat. But I mean, you're going to have Brandon Woodruff versus Zach Gallen, and then
likely, I would think Freddie Peralta versus Merrill Kelly in that game 3.
Yeah, if it's a game 3, but this is going to be, if you like pitching and defense and like 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 games, this is going to be the series for you. As much as I would love to agree with you that the Diamondbacks pull off the upset, I'm going to have to go with the Brewers here. Like, again, they're hosting. They're not playing the Cubs, so it's not going to be dominated by Cubs fans or Cardinals fans traveling up.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have an actual home field advantage for once. And you don't know how young bats. I mean, yes, Lourdes Gurriel has some playoff experience. Tommy Pham has some playoff experience, but you're relying a lot of young guys, both pitching and in the field. And I mean, Corbin Carroll, I really don't have any issues or worries about Corbin Carroll, but I mean, Jace Peterson, you're starting third baseman. Alec Thomas, I'm concerned about. Gabriel Moreno, their backup catcher, I'm not exactly thrilled about, considering he just played for the White Sox a couple of years ago. So I'm going to have to pick the Brewers. I think it's going to be in 2. I think these will be close games. These will not be blowouts unless Buffett just has an absolute stinker in game 1.
And then even then, Zach Davies will come and save the day.
If Zach Davies wins them a game against the Brewers, that would be absolute comedy.
I would love to see it. I would love to see it. But no, just I'm going to counterpoint you with the young guys.
Okay.
Corbin Carroll is way too good.
Yes.
Alek Thomas, yes, his bat's not been as consistent as it can be this year, but that glove out there in center field is way too good. Let's say a Josh Johnson hits a ball to the gap, Alek Thomas is just going to track it down. Lourdes Gurriel has playoff experience. Tommy Pham has playoff experience. Moreno is going to call one of the best games possible. Christian Walker is probably going to hit a 450-foot bomb. So there's just let the kids do their thing, and that's why they're going to take it in 3.
Yeah, I always have a hard time. Like I said, I'm not worried about Corbin Carroll at all in the slightest, but it's the rest of the guys and whether they can keep up with the Brewers pitching. And I think the Brewers have just enough offense with a revitalized Christian Yelich and now potentially revitalized Josh Donaldson. Willem Contreras is one of the most underrated catchers in all of baseball. I would say he's a top 3, top 5 catcher in baseball right now. He may not be as good defensively as some other guys, but I think he ended the year before the last one. I don't think he played in that game 162. He ended the year on a 17-game hitting streak. He's just been an incredible piece. That trade for the Braves to get Sean Murphy and the Brewers to get Willem Contreras and whatever Oakland got in that as well, depending on how those guys pan out, is looking like a 3-way win-win-win trade, which I don't remember the last time that's ever happened.
It hasn't. It hasn't happened in a while. And if I remember correctly, the Brewers also got their setup guy, Joel Payams, in that trade too. And he has been lights out behind Devin Williams this year.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. The Brewers' bullpen is absolutely elite. It's always been elite, which pisses me off to no end. But
me too.
Better pitch framer than his brother. Wow. Roasting us both in one comment.
Not wrong. But
no, I hate to admit it, but
it's right. He's right.
But again, all right, to finish this off, you have the Diamondbacks in 3. I got the Brewers in 2. And we get to our last playoff matchup of the NL side. We have a battle. Basically, this one part of the bracket is just the NL East, where you have the Philadelphia Phillies hosting the Miami Marlins. Thoughts right away just thinking about that as the series, and that whoever gets to go up next is just going to run into a buzzsaw.
Phillies in 2. I love the run that the Marlins made. Skip Schumacher as their manager has completely revitalized that club. Luis Arias hit king again. They're pitching of Luzardo and who do they all have?
Edward Cabrera,
Braxton Garrett. They got some studs. But this is Philadelphia that we're talking about. The team that was just in the World Series last year. The team that got better with the addition of Trey Turner. They still have Bryce Harper, who's still raking. They have Kyle Schwarber. They have a revitalized Nick Castellanos. JT is still behind the plate, being rock solid. Phillies in 2.
Yeah.
No other. And the team they're going to have to pitch, they have to go against Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler in games 1 and 2. You're not getting past that. Phillies in 2.
Yeah, and even if they do somehow get one game, there's still Taijuan Walker, Ranger Suarez, and the guy who pitched a no-hitter for them hasn't been as great lately, Michael Lorenzen. So Philly has a loaded pitching staff. I'll just list it off to you. Obviously, we just talked about their starters. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory
Stud.
Soto, Matt
Stud.
Strahm, Jose Alvarado, and Craig
Stud.
Kimbrell all in that bullpen.
That pen is good. And they'll probably they have a long reliever. I think his name like Christian Rodriguez or something. There's like a lefty who's also probably gonna be coming out of the pen this game too. Like they're good. The Phillies are good.
Yeah, and shout out to my king, my under 200 king, Kyle Schwarber. Like, just thinking about it, I'm gonna do a little Cubs rant here for a second. The fact that I would have loved. I'm gonna make myself bigger here. I would have loved to know that the DH was coming, because Kyle Schwarber would have been the perfect DH lefty power with where the Cubs are at right now. So it makes me angry that he's not here. I'm glad he's doing well in Philly. I'll probably be rooting for Philly against Miami for other reasons besides the fact that there's Kimbrel, Schwarber, and Castellanos all on that team. So, but it's just I had to get that rant out of there because it frustrates me to no end.
I don't blame you at all.
But I'll finally get to my prediction. Sorry for the rant.
All good.
I'm gonna say the Marlins steal a game, but I'm gonna say Philly in 3. I think if Marlins have a shot to steal a game, it probably would be game 1 or game 2 because I don't trust. I think all 3 of those guys, their top guys, have been good, but this is where you're really missing Sandy Alcantara. Like, he hasn't been as good as he was, obviously, in 2022, but you still would love to have him, even as like a long reliever role or something like that. So, and hey, the Marlins, they got a sneaky good offense. I mean, Jazz Chisholm's been good. You got World Series MVP Jorge Soler. You got Jake Berger and Josh Bell. Like you said, Luis Arraez. John Burry has been on a bit of a tear. So I think the Marlins are overmatched, but not to a degree where I think they would lose in a 2-game sweep. So I like the Marlins taking a game, but I'm agreeing it's gonna be Philly and Atlanta in that division series.
Yes, it will.
And that'll be a story for another day with how that series is gonna go, especially when it goes to Philly. So, but to recap, let's go through all of our series. Will start back in the National League. So you got the Diamondbacks, I got the Brewers. We both have the Phillies. We both have the Rangers. You had the Twins.
I have the Twins, and you have the Jays.
And I had the Jays, which, if you want to introduce our next topic, considering that last matchup we just said, I would love to hear it.
Seattle Mariners. You were supposed to be there instead of the Blue Jays. But this was one of the worst choke jobs I've seen in a while. Losing 2 or 3 against the Astros, swept by losing 3 or 4 against the Rangers. Like, they've been good all year. That pitching staff of George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, so good. That offense has been sneaky good with Eugenio Suarez. J.P. Crawford is out of nowhere a top 10 shortstop in the league. Julio is doing unreal things again. Like, this team was supposed to be so good and had so much hype around them. And they blew it.
They did. They did the classic Seattle thing. Just to give you an idea, on August 30th, they were 76-57 heading into a long road trip to New York, Cincinnati, and Tampa Bay. That was 10 games on the road. They went, let's see what we got, 3-7 on that road trip, including 2 out of 3 lost to the Mets, 2 out of 3 lost to Cincinnati, and losing 3 of 4 to Tampa Bay. So that was bad enough. But then they win the series against the Angels, big pickup. And they just could not compete against playoff teams down the stretch outside of that. Get swept by the Dodgers. You sweep Oakland. You're feeling pretty good. You're 84-68. You get swept by Texas in some fairly close games, but you lost 8-5, 2-0, 9-8.
Mhm.
Then, with a chance to get the tiebreaker over the Astros, somehow you lose 2 of 3, and the 2 games you lost were not even close. So then you're on your last legs. You win the first 2 against Texas, feeling good, and then you go ahead and blow it and lose 6-1 on the second to last game of the year, getting yourself eliminated, allowing the Blue Jays to sneak in, and I believe with them winning on Sunday for no reason, the Astros take the AL West.
Yes.
Like,
Purely worst case scenario happened. And that's just, if you asked me last month, if the Mariners were going to make it, I would have been like, absolutely. Do you see this lead? Then choke job.
yeah. And it's incredible that they even got here, because on July 14th, they were 45-45.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, August 30th, they went 21-12. Or no, 31-12 from July 14th
Unbelievable run.
to August 30th. And then they do what they always do, which is just choke. So that was so upsetting. I was so excited to see Julio Rodriguez, J.P. Crawford, Luis Castillo in the playoffs. But guess we'll just have to wait another year.
Yeah, that's what they always say. Just gotta wait one more. One more. It'll happen next year.
If there's an expert on that, it's me.
Oh, you guys would know for sure. You were saying that for 106 years or something, like
108.
Oh, my bad. I gave y'all benefit of the doubt. My bad.
So, but yeah, but how long has it been now? It's been 12 years now.
Yeah, we almost had it in 2013, but Big Papi had other plans.
Oh,
that's okay.
A lot of teams have felt the wrath of Big Papi, so I wouldn't be too upset. But you know what has saved the Mariners from this fate, Si?
What has?
You know what would have? Some really good home insurance.
Erie Insurance says here's to the grown-ups who move, mortgage, mow, and still bust a move. But does your home insurance still fit? Erie helps you protect the home you've grown into, all at fair prices that are often less than the other guys. So how do you find the right coverage? Magic. Nope. Local independent agents who get to know you like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
And when you call ahead at Erie Insurance, make sure you call Jeff Wertepny and let him know that Third Down Thursday sent you. And also make sure to let him know that Cy is better at him at Call of Duty.
Exactly. Cannot go wrong with that. I will throw down on the sticks.
What's your Call of Duty of choice?
Actually, it's not what many would expect. I go with World War II.
Really?
I don't know what about it. The campaign. I thought the campaign was really good. I like the map choice on there. If I have to play one, that's my go-to. However, can't go wrong with a gun game in BO2 and Nuketown. Cannot go wrong with the classic.
I was not a big Call of Duty guy growing up, but as I got older, I started to play a few of them. I will say the Modern Warfare 2019 multiplayer was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. But if I had to go any campaign, it's the original Modern Warfare. All gillied up is such a fun mission. That was so much. I've never had more fun like playing a Call of Duty than playing that mission in particular. That was just awesome.
Very good choice. Very good choice.
So, getting back into what we're actually here to talk about is some baseball here, keeping it on the playoff train. We'll go with some teams on the other side. Or actually, we'll start with a surprise team that made the playoffs. Of the 12 teams we have here, one from each league, who surprised you the most by making it in?
So I'm going to start with the AL as my surprise team because this one I think is such an easy choice. The Baltimore Orioles. They didn't just make the playoffs. They didn't just sneak in. They won 100 games, took the AL East, and have the number 1 seed in the American League. Nobody at the beginning of the year expected it. They lost over 100 games just 2 years ago. And now 2 years later, with the revolution of Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Ryan Mountcastle, now they are 100-game winners. Nobody expected that. But then to the National League side, looking at these teams, only one sticks out to me, which is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Another team that, once again, nobody in the beginning of the year expected them to go on a run and make the playoffs. People expected teams like the San Diego Padres to be in their position instead. But the young kids did their thing. Corbin Carroll had a historic rookie year. Alec Tomlins had arguably gold glove defense. The additions of Lourdes Gurriel, Paul Sewald, the trade to brought on Gabriel Moreno. This team put it together at the right time, and they made a run. And now, yes, they sneaked in as the 6th seed, but they made the playoffs. No one expected that.
Yeah, and earlier in the year, the Diamondbacks were not only higher up in the wild card standings, they were leading the NL West for a good chunk of the season. They just had that mini collapse in the middle of the year. So it's a credit to the trades they make, getting Tommy Pham, Jace Peterson, Paul Sewald. That probably saved their season in that case. So that was huge for them to get those guys.
So what about you? Who are your surprise teams?
My surprise teams. This may be a bit of a hot take considering how they played during the year, but heading into the year, I was not expecting much from the Texas Rangers. Oh. They really surprised me. I figured they would be better with Jacob deGrom, but like I said earlier, they hadn't made the playoffs since 2016. They spent all this money, and they were terrible last year. It's all right, they're just going to spend more money. They didn't look good on opening day against Philly. Jacob deGrom looked terrible. Obviously, can't base everything on that, but that was just my first impression with the Rangers. And the fact that they led this division for most of the year, and arguably, if they'd swept Seattle, they could have, or at least split the series with Seattle. They could have won the AL West and finally taken it from the Astros. I was really impressed. I'm sad we're not going to get to see Max Scherzer in the playoffs. That's a bit of a bummer, but just the fact that their pitching has improved even without the deGrom and Scherzer, Jordan Montgomery, Dane Dunning, Andrew Heaney, and just the offense. Corey Seager, if there was a guy who wasn't in his same division who could pitch and hit, I think Corey Seager would be right up there for an American League MVP this year, despite the time he missed.
Mm-hmm. He was out for 4 weeks with a broken wrist, came back and acted like he didn't miss any time. That stat line, I think it's 36 home runs, 129 RBIs. That's ridiculous. Corey Seager is so good, and he's making that contract really worth it so far.
Yeah, they don't make the playoffs without him and Marcus Semien. They are the best hitting middle infield in all of baseball. I wouldn't say they're the best overall just because Simeon's a good defender, but Corey Seager has a little bit to be desired on that side.
That is true.
But, just taking a look at Seager stats quick, if ESPN will load. 327 average. Let's see where to go. 33 home runs, 96 RBIs, 50 walks, 88 strikeouts, 390 on base, 623 slugging.
For a shortstop.
Yeah, who also had
That's crazy.
42 doubles and not a single triple. Like, Corey Seager's that guy. So,
Yes, he is.
but moving my attention to the National League, honestly, it would be the Miami Marlins. Considering where they were at the trade deadline, they were not looking good. Everyone thought, oh, it's going to be the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Diamondbacks. They're going to come out of the wild card. They were looking pretty dead to rights. And then they make those big trades. They get Josh Bell from Cleveland. They get Jake Burger from the White Sox. They get David Robertson from the Mets. Even though initially he wasn't good, he's a good setup guy now. So shout out to the Marlins. They were absolutely clutch all year long. They led baseball in one-run games with a 33-13 record in one-run games. Was it one run or two? It's close games. They were 33-13. Like, just absolutely ridiculous from the Marlins in terms of that. Just clutch hits, clutch pitching. Like, their bullpen this year. I mean, Tanner Scott broke out into a absolute dog of a closer for them. So I'm going to be rooting against them for multiple reasons, like I said earlier. But they are absolutely my surprise team, especially how they looked at the trade deadline.
That was actually a really good take. That was the other team I was debating, but I was like, no, I got to go with the Diamondbacks. They're the young guns, but
I picked them to beat the Brewers. I have to do it.
yeah. Double down on my take.
There you go. So now here comes the sad part, the other side of the coin. Who's your surprise team that missed? And boy, howdy, there are some great options.
There are so many options for each league. We'll start with the American League because there's really only one team that sticks out. Okay. And that team is the New York Yankees. What happened? You guys were what happened? You brought in Carlos Rodon to be your number 2 behind Garrett Cole, and maybe it was the injuries, or maybe Rodon has just had some fluke years because he pitched like it was 7-8 ERA. How do you do that? Like his last start out, he didn't even get a single out.
Against the Kansas City Royals.
Against the Kansas City Royals 218. That doesn't add up. They got rid of Josh Donaldson, thankfully. It took them long enough. Mm-hmm. But they called up their young. They have so much young talent that they called up too late. They kept running out Billy McKinney and Jake Bowers, and we're just told win a game. Anthony Rizzo playing him for 2 months with a concussion. It's not a great look on you guys. Trading away Harrison Bader. I get you guys weren't doing good, but shouldn't have done that. Judge was hurt for a bit, couldn't control that. Jason Dominguez came up, tore it up for a week and a half, got hurt. You can't control that, but just this team is supposed to be so good. And if I was a Yankees fan, I would be embarrassed.
Yeah, and I mean, adding on to that, I mean, Giancarlo Stanton, that trade is looking absolutely awful. Hit 191, 24 home runs, and 124 strikeouts in 371 at-bats.
So bad. And even I think my grandma could run faster than Giancarlo Stanton. Seeing him run as stiff as he is just painful to watch. So painful to watch.
It's crazy to me. This guy was an NL MVP candidate a few years ago.
Gets traded to New York and then just forgets all of baseball, I guess. But Going on to the National League side that missed the playoffs. Honorable mention goes out to the San Diego Padres. Because if you're going to spend all that money and still miss, that's just bad. But St. Louis Cardinals, you are projected to finish first in the league. Supposed to have breakout years from a Jordan Walker, and Arenado's supposed to have another MVP caliber year. Paul Goldschmidt's supposed to defend his MVP title. The pitching staff, we had 6 starting pitchers. We were supposed to be this good, and we finished 71-91. I think our best starting pitcher was Miles Milkis, and he had a 4.91 ERA.
Steven Matz was pretty good.
Injured.
Yeah.
If we look at the injuries, our closer Ryan Helsley got injured for a bit. Arenado got injured at the end of the year. Dylan Carlson was injured twice. Tyrone Neal was injured twice. Adam Wainwright, as much as thank goodness he got 200 wins. Love that for him. He deserved that for everything that he's done. But a 7 ERA, getting shelled game after game after game. Going from finishing first, supposed to finish first, supposed to have a fantastic great year, to everything that happened this year and all the drama that happened with our front office. Like, I'm sorry, you're going to bring in Wilson Contreras to replace Hall of Famer Yadier Molina and then throw him under the bus not even a month into the year, saying that he can't catch, he doesn't know the pitching staff, just DH, and then a week later be like, just kidding, you can catch again. What are we doing? What are we doing, St. Louis?
I'm trying to feel sorry for you. I really am.
No, you don't need to. I've felt sorry for my team all year. It's been like this since April. But that's enough talking for me. What surprise teams do you have that missed the playoffs?
So the NL is just so rich in teams. I'm not gonna rag on the Padres as much because yes, they spent all this money. They got Xander Bogaerts, you have Tatis, you have Machado, you have Blake Snell, you have Michael Wacha popping back up as a good starter.
Juan Soto had a down year and still hit like 270 with a bunch of home runs.
And he's not even 25.
He's not.
I am a year or two younger than Juan Soto. Like, just what?
Not even 25.
So, and they made a run at the end to try and sneak in. So, and they still finished above 500. Yes, you want to win 90, 95, 100 games. That's the plan. But you're still 82-80. I'm not going to rag on the Giants. They have some issues in their hitting core to work out. 79-83. Even the Cardinals.
Also, the Giants just got rid of Gabe Kapler, which I think is a very interesting move.
Yeah, which we'll maybe get into either today or another one. But even the Cardinals, you have a ton of injuries, no real frontline starting pitcher. You thought Jack Flaherty could have been that. Clearly wasn't. And the rest of the guys just could not live up to it. I'm going to rag on everyone's favorite punching bag, the New York Knicks of the MLB, the New York Mets. Let's
go Mets, baby! Let's go Mets!
Lol Mets. You are a poverty franchise. I never want to hear we swept you in the 2015 NLCS. Oh, the Mets own the Cubs, blah, blah. You bought Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom. You re-signed, Brandon Nimmo. You have Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor. Like, you still have, a pretty good stable of starting pitchers outside of that, I think. Just let me pull this up really here. Sorry,
you had Kodai Senga, for goodness sake.
Rookie year Kodai Senga. Jose Quintana. You had Edwin Diaz. Yes, he got injured at the beginning of the year, so that was a big loss. You have Jeff McNeil.
Francisco Alvarez.
You had Danny Burgers, Daniel Vogelbach, the greatest burger eating power hitter in all of my lifetime. But you went 74-87. You spent, what was it, like 600 million or 500 million or whatever the dollar amount, like an exorbitant amount of money to take the division from the Braves or at least make the playoffs and knock out the Phillies. You didn't even do that. You nearly got caught up by the Washington Nationals, who were supposed to be bad and still won 71 games. You only beat the Nationals by 3 games. Well, actually, two and a half, because the Mets technically didn't finish that game against the Marlins. But either way, that's what you put up? Like, I'm just dunking on them. I'm not even mad at them. I'm just dunking on them because they deserve to be dunked on, because I think we both agree New York fan bases suck. I'm sorry for any. I hope we didn't scare off or piss off any New York fan bases, but you guys suck sometimes. So I'm glad to see that the Mets didn't make the playoffs and they failed in spectacular fashion. That deserved to happen. I hate the Mets. I will always hate the Mets. That was a well-deserved. But moving on to the AL. I'm going to say, obviously we talked about the Mariners. I think with how they performed in the second half, that was a big surprise. I'm going to go, I just want to keep dunking on teams. So I'm going to go the Chicago White Sox. And I'm in a Discord, and all I'm seeing is, as the Cubs were eliminated from the playoffs, is White Sox coming in like, oh, you choked. Yeah, we choked at the end of the year. Your entire season was one massive choke job. A team that had just made the playoffs in 2021 took a game from the Astros with Leori Garcia hitting a grand slam of all people. You go 81-81 the following year. Okay, sometimes regression happens. It happens. You go out and you finish just 5 games ahead of the Royals, 11 games ahead of the Athletics. You're the third worst team in baseball in a contending window with Dylan Cease, Lance Lynn, Luis Robert, who had a fantastic season for them, Eloy Jimenez, Yoan Moncada, Tim Anderson. Yes, they lost Jose Abreu, but you figure that Vaughn is going to step up. Jake Burgers is going to step up. Who he had a good year. He was mashing for them. But it was a horrible season for the White Sox. And the Cubs missing the playoffs was their World Series. And that is just a sad. And you know what their next World Series is going to be? Seeing the Twins lose to the Blue Jays. That'll be their next thing. And then they'll go in like, oh, we're going to get these high draft pick and we got a good farm system. There's only one thing I have to bring up. Your highest paid contract in free agent history is Andrew motherfudging Benintendi. The Cubs have paid $100 million for Jason Hayward and John Lester and got a World Series out of it. You paid $75 million for Andrew Benintendi, and you're the third worst team in baseball. Oh, I had to do that. This is my ranting. Hopefully there won't be as many rants in the next couple of episodes, but I just needed to get that out.
You just cannot and then you're gonna have all the drama with Tim Anderson that he caused all year. Like, you're finding the wrong things. Hit that weight room, actually hit a home run, for goodness sake. Like, how long did you need to go? Over a year without hitting a single home run? Like, just
Nick Madrigal had more home runs than Tim Anderson this year.
That's saying something. That is saying something. Oh, White Sox.
An abject failure. But let's move on to something a little bit more positive. And Sai, I think you have a message from one of our newest sponsors about something that won't cause abject failure like the Mets and the White Sox this year.
So, you know what I think the White Sox needed?
What's that?
They needed a good energy source. And that comes from our people over at W Energy. W Energy was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. So maybe if the White Sox had some out in their system, they would have never crashed and actually done what they were supposed to do. They have their energy like powder has no calories, no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial colors. It is healthy. You're not going to crash. If you need to get prepped for a test, you need to get prepped for a game, go to W. Me personally, you cannot go wrong with that Dragonade. So good. And if you're interested in it, use our code Third Down Thursdays for 10% off your order. And go get yourself some good old clean energy.
Yeah, that I think it's Galactic Grenade looks absolutely fantastic. I may have to get a canister or a tub or whatever you want to call it. Might have to get myself some of that.
As we like to say around here, I will be face first in this energy drink.
Oh, I love it. All right. Moving on to our last couple of segments here of the show. With the regular season being over, it has been a great season of baseball, but it's time to decide who's going to win them big awards. Let's build our way up to the bigger awards. And let's start with Manager of the Year. Who do you got from the AL and NL taking that spot?
All right. For the AL, I think it's very clear cut. It will be Brandon Hyde of the Baltimore Orioles because his expectation this year was to not do anything with that team. And, well, he shattered any and all expectations. So Brandon Hyde will very much easily take that one. In the NL, frankly, I can't really give you someone because I'm not super sure. But I can see either Dave Roberts or Craig Counsell taking it. They're always a safe pick. They both led their squads to another NL West and NL Central title respectively. Can't go wrong with either of them.
Yeah, I think those are some great picks. I'm in full agreement with you. I think I saw a stat that Brandon Hyde was either the first or like one of a few managers to both coach a 100 loss season and a 100 win season. And it's not like the Orioles, like you said earlier, the Orioles snuck in as like the 5th or 6th seed or something like that. They had the second best record in baseball, a game ahead of the Dodgers and 2 games back of the Braves. This team is legit. And I think Brandon Hyde, along with getting all that young talent to play that well that quickly, I mean, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, eventually they're going to get Jackson Holliday up there at some point. Colton Cowser, I think, made his MLB debut this year.
He had a cup of coffee, got sent back down, and then won the International League MVP with their AAA team, who won the championship.
And then Kirsten Kierstad, who they also called up. It takes player development at every level in an organization and that extra step from a manager to get all those guys playing well. And I mean, you look at how Grayson Rodriguez turned around his season after getting sent down in the minors. He's lefty, right?
Who?
Grayson Rodriguez?
He's a righty.
He's a righty. Okay. I was thinking of somebody else. Like righty, throws 100 as a starter. He's going to be and they just got John Means back. This team is just going to be so good for so many years. And I hope the ownership pays up for when those guys need their big boy contracts, because there's going to be quite a few of them. So as for the NL, there have been 3 names circulating my mind. It's been Skip Schumacher of the Marlins for that midseason turnaround. There's been Rob Thompson of the Philadelphia Phillies, and also Craig Counsell of the Milwaukee Brewers. Of the 3 of them, I'm going to go Craig Counsell. I think it is a well-deserved. I mean, he just does a fantastic job year in and year out. I don't think he's won a manager of the year yet at some point. I think it's always obviously there was Joe Madden for the Cubs, obviously a while ago. There was Dave Roberts has been racking them up. So I think it's finally time for Craig Counsell to get his award. Still managing one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball, best bullpen in all of baseball, one of the best defensive teams in all of baseball. And the work he and the rest of the coaching staff did to revitalize Christian Yelich, get the production they are getting out of Willem Contreras, and the rest of that team is nothing short of amazing. Like, as much as we both hate them, Milwaukee Brewers are right now the class of the NL Central when it comes to the manager position. I think if I had to do a power rankings for managers in the NL Central, I think it would be Counsell, the Reds manager, Pirates, David Bell. Who's the manager of the Pirates? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't.
And then it'd be like tied for fourth with David Ross and Ole Marmol. So
I would put Marmol at 5. I give Ross a little benefit of the doubt.
I didn't want to be the one to say it.
I'm going to throw Marmol under the bus. He's not a terrible manager by no means. Just his philosophies, and in particular his bullpen management. I just have to shake my head because there's one name in my mind that he will throw every single game by the name of Andre Palante. And he was not good at all this year. And we would be up by 2 runs. He would throw him in there. He'd let the 3-run bomb. And then we're down. Like, just disappointing.
For sure. Okay. So I think we're crossing the board here. I think we got Brandon Hyde and Craig Counsell for managers of the year. So finally some agreements. All right. Let's move up the food chain. Let's talk about rookie of the year.
We're just gonna keep this one short and sweet. Gunnar Henderson takes AL. Corbin Carroll takes NL. There's no other option.
Yeah, I think the only contender that I can think of for NL was Kodai Senga.
Yes,
if you want to technically count that, but yeah, he's good. He's good.
Carroll was way too good.
Yeah,
and I will give special recognition to Ellie De La Cruz and Jordan Walker. They both did put up some they put up good seasons respectively, but they're not on Corbin Carroll's level.
Corbin Carroll, I think, almost any other year he's a top. He may even still finish top 5 in MVP this year. So it has been rare to see a rookie play this well this early in their career. I'm just shocked. It's been awesome. And then at least for the AL side, I'll give some love to our boy Jax, Tristan Casas, and Masataka Yoshida for the Boston Red Sox. They had some really good seasons. And
Yoshida
then Josh
had such a strong first half.
And then you also want to throw in Josh Jung of the Texas Rangers in there. Honestly, if he doesn't get hurt, he probably wins AL Rookie of the Year. But, I mean, Gunnar Henderson, just unreal. Good defense, great hitter, just a fantastic. Baltimore is the rookie all-star factory this season. So again, pretty good across the board. Let's get to the next one. This one, I think will be another slam dunk for this one.
So let's go with Cy Young. Start us off. I want to see what you're thinking. So start us off.
Cy Young, as disappointed as I am that I'm not saying a guy who wears the blue pinstripes is the Cy Young winner for the NL, it's got to be Blake Snell. Blake Snell was a god. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 bad starts all year long. Ridiculous stat line from Blake Snell this year. 14-9, 2.25 ERA, 234 strikeouts in 180 innings this year. I mean, 3.44 FIP, 5.8 hits per nine, which led the league. 5 walks, 11.7 strikeouts. Like, he's just 1.1 whip. Blake Snell was just absolutely incredible. And special shout out to Justin Steele. If he didn't have those 2 starts where he gives up 6 runs, he's much closer than where he ended up finishing and will probably finish. But yeah, just incredible season for Justin Steele. But Blake Snell is easily the NL Cy Young.
Super talented.
Yeah. And for AL, I think it's another slam dunk. This guy is a former Pittsburgh Pirate, former Houston Astro, Mr. Garrett Cole of the New York Yankees. I think if there was like a major league Cy Young award, I think this might go to Garrett Cole. Because every 5th day when he was pitching, it was pretty much a guaranteed Yankees win. 15-4, 2.63 ERA, led the league in innings pitched at 209, 222 strikeouts, just 48 walks, and only 20 home runs given up, 61 total earned runs allowed. Unreal season for Garrett Cole.
It is so crazy. Look at that stat line and seeing the sub-1 whip and 2.6 ERA. Like, wow, it's just no words. But
just no notes.
I agree completely with both your sign picks. Garrett Cole's got that American League one under wraps, and then. So back in July, I got lucky enough to watch Blake Snell throw a live bullpen in Detroit. And I remember just watching him watch those mechanics, and I'm like, and this is when he was really starting to heat it up and like really go on that tear that he went on. I was like, man, he's good. Like, I was just speechless just watching him throw and how like flawless his motion is. And it's crazy because he had a significant drop-off after his Cy Young year in Tampa Bay. So it's kudos to Blake Snell. Kudos to my future St. Louis Cardinals ace, Blake Snell. Like, let's go, Blake Snell.
Yeah, and I mean, we also, at least on the AL side of things, special shout-out to Sonny Gray, who had an unreal season with the Twins this year. Just to give you an idea, the last time Blake Snell gave up more than 3 runs was April 6th.
Yeah.
The last time he gave up more than 4 was May 19th. 1, 2, 3, 4. He gave up 3 runs in 4 starts. Like, in 32 starts. I 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 shutout starts for Blake Snell. All of which were over 5 or more innings.
It is absolutely crazy what he has been doing.
Like, for all the credit and all the rule changes that have benefited hitting, the pitch clock, the bigger bases, the limited pickoffs that you can have, the fact that we got these kind of seasons from 2 of the best starting pitchers in Garrett Cole and Blake Snell, I think that puts this Cy Young for both of them at another level than not saying the other Cy Youngs are bad or meaningless or there's an asterisk, but I think it just shows has another level of difficulty.
Could not agree with you more.
You want to present us with our last award, the biggest one of them all?
The biggest one, and the one that I actually believe is a cakewalk for both sides, the MVP. Starting us off, the National League, which it's crazy to see how there's 5 names that are roughly circling around, but nobody is on the level of Ronald Acuna Jr. Historic season is an understatement what he did. 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases, the first player to ever do that. Yeah, here's your MVP trophy. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah. Just a quick run over his stat line. I agree with you, Ronald Acuna. Mookie Betts made it a conversation in August, but
And then even Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson with their
Oh my
respective
God.
years made it a conversation as well. But
they're
there's there's no words. There is no words. They all
Again.
had such good seasons that in any other year could probably win them an MVP. But then Ronald said, "Hold my beer," and went 40 and 70.
Yeah. 8.1 WAR this year. 337. So he was in. I don't know how close he was to Luis Arias, but he was in at least the conversation for a batting title. 106 RBIs, 73 stolen bases, 41 home runs, 416 on base, 596 slugging, an OPS plus of 168. And for those who don't know, OPS plus league average is 100. Like
Crazy.
They just
Yeah.
shout out to Ronald Acuna, except for him and the Braves delaying the 10th inning of that Cubs game a few days ago for a highlight montage.
And that's why y'all aren't in the playoffs.
We'll get into that later. But yeah, shout out to Ronald Acuna. Congratulations on your first MVP award. He is building up quite the Hall of Fame resume already. He's a World Series champion. He's going to be an MVP, one of the best hitters in baseball. And I think next year he'll be much improved on the defensive side. I think it's weird to say he was still working back from an ACL injury and then did this.
Yeah. He might even get better. Like what?
If he goes out and goes 50, 80, you could consider him the best power speed threat in all of baseball ever.
Straight to the hall. I did pull up Luis Arias' stats, and Luis Arias finished at a 354 batting average.
So he was 0.027 points from, or 27 points ish from getting the batting title.
Crazy.
So, who is your AL MVP pick?
Shohei Ohtani. Even with the injury, the numbers he was putting up are way too good to just not give him the award. There's no notes, no nothing. Nobody's doing what Shohei's doing. It really sucks that he tore his ACL again. So that paycheck he's going to be getting is going to be significantly less than it would have been. But, wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy the fact that Shohei Ohtani, let's see if we take a look at this. He still played in 135 games, so he missed over 30 games this year. And he's still easily going to win MVP. It's not even a question of it's close with Corey Seager and some of these other guys, but he's easily going to win it.
Easy.
Batting, 44 home runs, 95 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, an OPS plus of 184, 412 on base, 654 slugging, a 10.1 WAR. And then, as a pitcher, you take a look at it. Where did it go? Why am I blind? Where did the pitcher go? Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. He's still through 132 innings with a 3.14 ERA, went 10-5, and had 167 strikeouts.
Crazy.
Baseball hurts my brain sometimes with some of the stats like these guys put up
How
throughout
can a
an
single
entire
human
season.
do this? How can one single human do all of this? Does not make sense.
We've seen one other person do it, and it was before African Americans could play baseball. Like,
Correct.
it's been Babe Ruth. That's it. And he's doing it with much better talent in baseball and just everything. Everything is more difficult. Like, he might have gotten 600 million if he could pitch this year or for 2024. He'll still get like 400 or 500 million.
Yep.
Easily.
And that's will just be strictly DHing next year, which is crazy. Crazy to think.
Yeah, I hesitate to say he's the best player in baseball just because injuries are a factor for me, but completely healthy, he's easily the best. He's the best hitter and pitcher in baseball. I think
you are not wrong at all.
So. Yeah, that's it's such a weird year because I think there was last year you still had the battle between Judge and Ohtani, but it feels like for all these awards except for like Manager of the Year, there's just like a clear-cut choice for every single one. And I think that's not to say like no one else was close. It's just how good every single one of these guys are for their respective awards.
Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
So that wraps up that part of it. Let's move on to a place where both of us will be watching the playoffs from the couch as both the Cubs and the Cardinals were eliminated from the playoffs. Cardinals much sooner than the Cubs and much sooner than both of us were expecting. Well, I'll start it with you. You kind of got into it when you said your surprising team who missed. What went wrong for St. Louis this year?
So, we'll start it out with the pitching staff. John Mozeliak came out in the beginning of the year and said, we have 6 starters. That was not the case. We had Miles Milkis, who was pitching to a almost 5 ERA. Zach Thompson, who got thrust into the starting rotation because of injuries. Dakota Hudson was in AAA for a while, but then he came up and got shelled. Steven Matz was good, and then during his latter half of the year before getting injured, Adam Wainwright had 7 ERA, shelled every time he went out. Matthew Liberatore, all this hype around him for nothing. He got moved to the bullpen in September when this team was struggling to find a starting pitcher. It's just you trade away Jack Flaherty, who wasn't doing great and who ended up getting moved to the bullpen in Baltimore, which I think is kind of ironic. And then our ace was Jordan Montgomery, and he continued to do even better in Texas. And honestly, there's a chance that the Cardinals may just sign him back in the offseason. And if so, we got 2 very good prospects from the Rangers out of him, and Takora Roby and Thomas Segis, who just won the AA MVP award. Like, such a talented guy. And then injuries. Looking at our depth chart right now, we have guys like Tyler O'Neill, Wilson Contreras, Jojo Romero, Steven Matz, Alec Burleson, Nolan Arenado, Brendan Donovan, all on the injured list at some point this year. Like, no, all Cardinals. I'm just frustrated. I'm just frustrated because I think at some point, almost everybody on our 26-man roster was injured. It does not make sense. This team was supposed to be all that, supposed to be so good, so talented, but it never happened. It never happened. And now we have a lot of work that we have to do this upcoming offseason. Our front office has come out and said we need 3 starting pitchers. And we need to trade for one of them. We have too much depth that we don't know what to do with. Our outfield is too crowded. We have Lars Nootbaar and Jordan Walker are the only 2 that have confirmed themselves a spot in our starting outfield. Outside of that, we have a Tyler O'Neill. We have a Dylan Carlson. We have, when Brendan Donovan comes back, he's gonna be sure to spot because Brendan Donovan is too valuable. We have a Tommy Edman who's been playing outfield. Like this team is just has so much they need to do.
So
continue.
Yeah, go for it. I was just going to ask a question, but if you finish.
Just it's this. Our front office come out and said that this year is a disappointment. This year shouldn't have happened, and that they're going to do what they can to right the ship and right their wrongs. But this year, we were supposed to finish with 85 to 92 wins. We were supposed to win NL Central, and we finished with 71 wins.
Dead last.
Paul Gold, dead last. We finished behind the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's saying something. Paul Goldschmidt's starting to regress. Nolan Arenado is starting to regress. I forgot to mention Nolan Gorman, who was injured 3 separate times this year. Like, our vets are starting to regress, and they're frustrated. Arenado has come out and expressed his frustrations, how he just wants to win. He wants a ring. He came to St. Louis to get a ring. Paul Goldschmidt, we owe a ring to Paul Goldschmidt. He's been here since 2019 now. He's about to turn 36 or 37. Like, there's so much wrong. And I want to be optimistic and say we're going to fix it all this offseason, but our front office has not. I just need to see it from our front office.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect.
And that's the thing, because as I've been doing since the Cubs have been eliminated, we can all dream of guys we want. Like, I would love to have Matt Chapman to play third base every day for the Cubs. You obviously, and I want him too. I would love to have the NL Cy Young come to my pitching staff and your pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also going to come down to, do those guys want to come here? And I know they're paying Goldschmidt and Arenado, but is St. Louis a team that typically spends? Because there's so many ends of the spectrum, because you have the A's who don't spend anything, and then you have the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets who spend basically a country's GDP.
Yep. St. Louis is about in that middle range. We have shown before that we will spend, but we've also shown that we won't. So coming out and saying that we need 3 starting pitchers, and also coming out now that our top 2 targets are Aaron Nola and Sonny Gray. The front office has already come out with, the speculation reports already come out with, that's who St. Louis wants. But then they also know that that third starting pitcher needs to come with a trade somewhere. Because it's not even that, we need 3 starting pitchers. We need 3 high caliber starting pitchers. Steven Matz and Miles Mikolas need to be our 4 and 5 next year. If they're anything higher than that, we're doing something wrong. So it'll just be interesting to see what happens. But our offense is fine. Our bullpen is okay. We'll definitely need to pick up some bullpen pieces too. But our offense is fine. I have not a worry, not a problem about our offense. It is pitching.
Yeah. Like watching that series, I think in the middle of July between the Cubs and Cardinals, it was so obvious that the Cardinals need to start pitching and bullpen. Like, I mean, outside of Steven Matz had to pitch a gem in that last game of the series for that to win. That's what it took. So I would agree. I mean, I'm going to list off a few names. There are guys that are going to be free agents. I mean, obviously you have Ohtani, you have Marcus Stroman, who has a player option, but we don't know if he's going to take that. Clayton Kershaw's a free agent. Hyun-Jin Ryu. Lance Lynn's probably going to get his club option denied. Andrew Heaney has a player option. I mean, Alex Wood is out there. So there are some guys. I mean, like, any of those names excite you outside of like the obvious?
I wouldn't. It's where we're at, like, of the caliber pitching we need. None of those names are too exciting. For personal reasons, I wouldn't mind Alex Wood as a 5 to long reliever.
Mm-hmm.
And if Ryu, and this will be or like a Ryu, because it'll be his first full healthy year. I just don't see the Cardinals signing them. What is prone to happen is they're going to sit back, sit on their hands, and they're just going to watch. And they're going to wait till the scraps are left. And then John Mozeliak will be like, all right. So who's left? You. All right, sure. We'll take you guys for $8 million a year. Because it's not that. It's not even that with the weight. They'll then proceed to overpay for a subpar pitcher.
Or they'll trade for like an Alex Cobb.
I would not mind seeing Alex Cobb. He pitched like a 3.5 ERA this year. Cobb was decent. I would not mind seeing that as like a 3. But it's trading. Will the Cardinals be willing to give up actual good talent? That I cannot say.
So, but I guess I will say it wasn't all bad, right? Like, there were some bright spots for the Cardinals this year. That is the most hardest nod yes I've ever seen in my life.
There was a few. Lars Nootbaar has proven that he's an on-base king. He's our spark plug. He's our energy. He finished with a 367 on-base percentage this year, which pretty good. I like that a lot. Nolan Gorman has shown that he can hit both sides of the ball now. 27 home runs in, I believe, 120 so games because he was awful injured. Tommy Edmonds still does it all. Jordan Walker is here. He has made his mark with a 276 batting average, 16 home runs, 51 RBIs, and he did get sent down like partway through the year. Mason Wynn is here. He will be our shortstop of the future. Like, we have good young pieces. We're going to get our boy Brendan Donovan back, our super utility knife. Like, Wilson Contreras did what he was supposed to do, even with all the drama and stuff. He hit 20 home runs to 268 batting average. Like, not the greatest behind the plate, but, like, we have Andrew Kisner, who's a little better with our pitching staff. So it's the offensive pieces are there. There's too many. There's some pieces that need to go. One of a Tyler O'Neill or Dylan Carlson needs to be traded. And Alec Burleson ideally needs to be traded. Like, there's pieces that need to go, but it's just one can only wait and hope that the moves that need to be made will be made. But that's enough for anything about the Cardinals. What did the Cubs have going on for them? Because they weren't supposed to be this good, if I do so say myself.
Yeah, I was intrigued in the offseason with some of the moves they made heading in this year. Obviously, they signed Cody Bellinger to a $17 million deal with, I think, it was a player option or a mutual option, something like that. Oh, it was a mutual option. So, like, okay, Cody Bellinger hasn't been great, but who knows? Maybe he'll rebound. He'll do better. And then, like, okay, Trey Mancini is a DH. That's fine. Eric Hosmer. Eric Hosmer, I knew from the jump was going to be bad. Like, he is long gone from his Kansas City Royals days. I knew that was going to be bad from the get-go. And then Jameson Taillon, I was pretty excited about because we had Marcus Stroman. Justin Steele was showing potential. Kyle Hendricks was coming back at some point in the year. I thought Hayden Wesneski could have taken a jump. So Jameson Taillon, I thought, was that perfect 2 or 3 option. That didn't end up working out in the first half of the year. Taillon was terrible in the first half of the year. But this team changed so much from opening day to game 162. which is the last time they really had all their starters. Like,
Mhm.
Trey Mancini is gone. Eric Hosmer is gone. Tucker Barnhart is gone. They signed as a backup catcher. All those guys are gone. Alex or some Rios was with the Cubs early in the year.
Sounds about right.
I think he got removed from the 40-man roster. And we're at now where Cody Bellinger returned to MVP form once he came back from his injury he suffered against the Astros in June. Like, I was not expecting 307 team leader in home runs, team leader in RBIs from Cody Bellinger this year. 26 home runs, 97 RBIs. Like, 356 on base, 525 slugging, a 4.4 WAR. It's the power not necessarily came all the way back yet this year for Bellinger, but that July on was Los Angeles Dodgers NL Rookie of the Year, NL MVP Cody Bellinger with Gold Glove defense in center field and at first base. Shit, like, we have not had a Gold Glove first baseman or a first baseman that good since Anthony Rizzo. Granted, I know that was just 2 years ago, but the difference, like, I didn't realize how big of a difference it would be from not having Anthony Rizzo to having Cody Bellinger play first and center field. And then just all the young players, like, developed. Nico Horner became a hitting machine this year. Doesn't have quite the power yet, but great hitting average this year. If I think I see it correctly, 283 batting average for Nico Horner. Like, best defensive middle infield in baseball with Dansby Swanson. Well, Dansby had a horrible month of September. He had some really great stretches offensively and still had 22 home runs, 80 RBIs. Average, it wasn't great, but when you have just a 2.7 defensive WAR, along with Nico, who had 1.9, like, I can't be mad with that.
Yeah.
And obviously, Justin Seal having a near Cy Young season was incredible to see. And Adbert Alzolay turning into a closer, and Mark Leiter Jr. being a great pitcher. Julian Merriweather, who was claimed off of waiver from the Blue Jays, becoming a top 5 reliever in strikeouts. And the ascension of other young starting pitchers, Javier Assad, that big stretch. Read my article on Third Down Thursdays. I talked to
that is your boy.
I talked to Tennessee Smokies pitching coach about him. It just he was amazing. Jordan Wicks down the stretch. I think he had 2 bad starts. Was incredible. And then the bad parts is that Tyone still had a few stinker starters in the second half of the year. Drew Smyly, basically after pitching a near perfect game against the Dodgers in April or May, fell off and was horrible. And then injuries. Nick Madrigal gets injured. One of the big trade pieces they got at the deadline with Jamer Candelario, he gets injured. Michael Fulmer, who had been great out of the bullpen after being moved out of the closer role, he gets injured. Like, Cody Bellinger, Dansby Swanson were injured at different points during the year. Like, there are just so many injuries, and then just the end of the year, the collapse. They had a 92% chance after they swept the Giants to make the playoffs on September 6th. I believe they ended up going 6-13 or 6-14 down the stretch.
Stinker of a stretch.
And 9 of those games were against the Pirates and 2 series against the Rockies, in which they won 4 games. That and blowing a 6-0 lead to the Braves in one of the weirdest defensive lapses I've ever seen from a really good right fielder in Seiya Suzuki, who was having an incredible August and September. Since August 1st, he was second in OPS, I think, behind Mookie Betts. Like, he was having an incredible last part of the year, then blowing that game in extra innings when Acuna joined the 40-70 club. And then just the defense fell apart. They had an error in every game in the final 6 games. starting pitching and bullpen was just taxed to hell.
Mm-hmm.
There was just not enough depth on this team in the pitching, in the bullpen, in the starting pitching, and in the position players for them to really do anything. So I'm happy. I did not expect this with them 10 games under 500 in the middle of June to rattle off 10 straight wins, buy at the deadline, and be a game out of a wild card spot. So overall, I'm happy. I'm disappointed because there are a few games here and there you pick out, you flip a couple of them. Those last couple series against Arizona where they won 1 game out of 7, you flip 2 of those or 1 of those, and you're probably in playing the Brewers. So disappointing, but I'm excited for the future. There's a lot of really good young pieces. We saw Pete Crow Armstrong make his MLB debut. We saw Alexander Canario make his MLB debut, who he should have gotten a lot more playing time down the stretch. That David Ross needs to figure some stuff out. He's going to be back as manager. Tom Ricketts, the owner, basically said as much that he'll be back. But
starting Jared Young over Canario, I truly still think was a very questionable move.
Yeah, I just don't get.
This is coming from a Cardinals fan. Cardinals fan, by the way, guys. And even I knew, like, not knowing a lot, not much. I understood some of the hype that's come up with Canario. Seeing that, I'm just like, all right, now you have your DH batting 8th, and it's not even Canario. Like, whatever.
Yeah,
and not playing PCA as much as PCA should have been playing. Love Talkman, but
the summer might talk maybe.
If you're gonna call the kid up, you gotta play the kid.
So I will defend a little bit him not playing PCA because he's a good defender, but did not get a hit in 17 at bats. Canario had a 5 RBI game and didn't play again until the second to last game of the year, where I think he went like 2 for 4, 3 for 5. So David Ross does a lot of good things. I think he's a good leader. Just some of the decisions he makes with the lineups and pitching staff just drive me over the edge. But it's going to be an interesting offseason. Is the Ricketts family going to be okay with going into luxury tax to re-sign Cody Bellinger, who's going to probably get over $200 million easy? Are they going to let them break the bank for Shohei Ohtani? Or they're going to say, spread it out a bit, get some bullpen arms, get another starter because Drew Smyly is going to be gone. You don't know the status of Kyle Hendricks, who has a club option. And then Marcus Stroman has a player option. Signs are pointing to he'll probably take it, considering the second half of the year he had post-London series.
Yes.
It's an interesting time. There's a lot of optimism with the youth, but it's time to put up or shut up for the Ricketts family at this point. You did it the cheap way by building up all this talent in the 2016 run with Rizzo on a cheap deal, Baez, Russell, and Bryant basically all on their cheap deals, and you splurge with Hayward, Lester, and Lackey. So is now the time where, like, okay, we got all these young pitchers now. Let's get a third baseman. Let's get Matt Chapman. Let's get a starter. Maybe it doesn't have to be a Blake Snell or Nola.
Make a few trades. Like, you have
get some bullpen arms.
You have the depth to go out and swindle some moves. Be willing to give up a few of those top 30 prospects. It'll pan out in the end.
Yeah.
The Cubs have shown now that they can compete. 4 of the 5 teams in the NL Central next year are going to compete.
Yep.
If the Cubs sit back, they're not going to make this same run again. They got to get the depth.
Yeah, and it all depends on, like you were talking about, where the Cardinals do. If they shell out the money and somehow get Blake Snell, you're talking, and depending on what the Pirates do, the NL Central is going to be a gauntlet. Because unless the Brewers somehow lose, even if they lose Peralta or Woodruff, they'll still have 2 of the 3 guys.
Yep.
And then
don't sleep on the Reds, who have built up, who are – and I'm going to call them the NL's version of the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, they're a year away. If they add some pitching.
They were the Reds were the Orioles last year.
Yep.
So it's the only team that I'm not fully sold on is Pittsburgh. And even then, they have their young pieces too. O'Neal Cruz will be back next year.
They got David
It's good.
Bednar still. They didn't trade David Bednar. And they still won 76 games. They were 6 games under 500.
Yeah.
So they're
It's the Central will be a gauntlet, and this offseason will be vital to see what each of these teams do.
yeah, it's going to be huge. So it'll be fun to watch. This is not only the playoffs are going to be great to watch, regardless of what happens. Just please no Dodgers or Braves in the World Series. Like let it be like the Phillies again or the Diamondbacks. That would be
Orioles versus
fun.
Diamondbacks. Let's do it.
That would be like the most fun, like, you know, but you know, the MLBs, they're going to finagle stuff. It'll be Astros, Dodgers, or Astros, Braves again.
Always.
So,
Always.
but yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. And I'm glad we've started this show to finally get to cover it all. It's going to be a fantastic run this year. But the biggest thing is since there's going to be a lot of high action during the playoffs this year, you're going to really need to speak to this guy because you may need some insurance. Sai?
I
Great
just
show,
laugh. I just laugh. Fantastic show. But that commercial's hilarious. Go hit our boy Jeff up if you need some great old insurance. And tell him that Third Down Thursday sent you, because who else is going to send you?
Exactly. Well, thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you to everyone who commented. And we will be back next Monday, same time, hopefully with a special guest, either Cubs or Cardinals rated. So, Sai, great job as always, and I'll see you next week.
See y'all.